We have Congressman Arrington with us. Congressman, thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
You bet. Good to be with you, David.
Senator Mitch McConnell says we're going to have to wait till after the impeachment trial before getting any signature on the USMCA. Any chance we could get it signed sooner than that?
Well, I sure hope so. My farmers and ranchers in West Texas certainly want this done. I think investors want the certainty. We want level playing fields with Mexico. That's what we got. And I'm smiling because I'm very happy about the new access to customers in Canada that were otherwise prevented under NAFTA. So this is a great deal for America, for farmers, for manufacturers, for workers. I could go on and on. But yeah, we need to get this thing going. We got an agreement with Nancy Pelosi. That took a year. So we need to move quickly. And I know they're trying to move quickly to draft the implementing legislation right now.
Scott?
Yeah, I mean, Congressman, with respect to the partisanship that you referred to around this deal, how do Republicans feel about Democrats trying to, say, take some credit for getting this through when this was largely a Republican Donald Trump effort?
There's no question this was led by the president, and Pelosi was boxed in here at the end of this year where she had to give this away to her moderate Democrats to get their votes for impeachment. Left her in a position of weakness, and was good for conservatives. It was good for folks who are interested in the core provisions of trade, which is tariffs and non-tariff issues, and not some of these other ancillary issues. Certainly, it allowed us to stave off big losses potentially in obligating America to Paris Climate Accords and other international treaties. And the list goes on of bad things that could have happened if we weren't in a position of strength.
Congressman Steve Forbes here. Some people have criticized the new NAFTA for the arbitration, that it's not as strong in terms of their disputes. You're more likely to end up in a Mexican court instead of a tribunal that is more international, and therefore get a fairer shake and get the politics out of it. Well, what's your feeling on those arbitration procedures in the new bill?
Well, I think that the dispute resolution process is intact, consistent with the way we've done it in other agreements. What's changed, there are a few more moving parts because of the last-minute negotiations with Democrats. They're modest, they're insignificant in their impact. There could have been, like I said, a lot of bigger problems on the enforcement side because I think the Democrats wanted to create new bureaus controlled by unions that were very heavy-handed, that would come in and shake our manufacturers down and with surprise investigations and the like. So I feel good about where we are. It's not perfect, but I think we've got a lot of safeguards and limitations from that perspective.
So, Congressman, what about the give up of some protections from pharmaceutical companies? Is there any feeling that the Republicans should have pushed harder to keep those protections in place?
Well, I think it's a real problem not to have them in. Obviously, what I think some of your viewers may not completely understand is that not having those intellectual property protections for pharmaceutical technologies and therapies just allows Mexico and other countries around the world that don't have these protections to have cheaper prices for drugs that we subsidize in their R&D. So it's a problem, no doubt. That to me was not a good thing in the final analysis, but on balance, this is very strong and very good for our country.
Congressman, no disrespect, the Democrats have the majority in the House. They're going to be the ones driving this vote. And actually, Senator Toomey of Pennsylvania, your Republican, came out and said that he was not supportive because actually it went to where the Democrats were. I'm surprised you're saying that, considering the unions are now supportive, they have new labor standards, new environmental standards, that you're making that this was a conservative-led deal when actually one of the bigger conservatives in your party on the Senate side thinks they shouldn't pass it.
Well, I can just tell you that the labor standards and environmental standards, even the playing field, we want enforcement of every provision, but what we don't want is to create a new bureau led by unions that had powers that were unfettered and that were out of control. Would have been a problem. We also didn't want to be bound to Paris Accords and other international agreements and conventions, and we staved that off. Actually, but there are seven,
Congressman, but there are 7 environmental agreements that Canada and Mexico have to abide by. That's part of what was put in by the Democratic-led House.
So what we want to make sure is whatever constraints and cost we have as producers and manufacturers, whatever cost we have to bear, we ought to have the rules apply to everyone else. But there are no new agreements, no binding policies that come to the U.S. as a result of this deal, other than that which has already been ratified. Those deals have been ratified by the Senate. That's important.
Congressman, I just want to touch on the China trade deals. You know, the markets move more on China news than they do on USMCA news. President Trump has just 4 days to decide whether or not he's going to impose those new 15% tariffs on about $160 billion worth of goods. Should the president go forward with these, or should he hold off on the December 15th raise?
Well, he's been, I think, effective in using tariffs to get China to come to the table. I think we're, again, in a position of even greater strength because of this USMCA, which is going to be a framework for comprehensive free trade agreements around the world going forward.
But, Congressman, we're up against a hard break. I got to press you. Are you going to give us an answer? Should he go forward on this, or should he hold back on the raise in the tariffs?
Yeah, here's my position, David. If he has to do it, he has to do it. And but I think it's only a last resort, because we want to get that purchase agreement. We want to get phase one. That's the ideal. But if he has to do it, I'd put it all on the table. I'd leave it on the table.
Congressman Arrington, thank you very much, sir.
Guys.
Good to see you. Appreciate it.
Too.
Well, Inspector General Michael Horowitz